I built my career from scratch. Not inherited, not given, but carved out of sleepless nights, endless grinding, and an unshakable belief in what I was doing. In the early days, it was nothing but a dream, a fragile, ridiculous dream that even I sometimes doubted. But I pushed through. The long nights turned into years. The passion turned into skill. The skill turned into success. Now, I had a career most people couldn't even fathom. Over 5 million followers. Six-figure brand deals. A steady, growing income that secured not just my future, but Olivia's family's future too. And yet, despite everything I had accomplished, there was always a voice lingering in the background, a nagging whisper that never went away. It's not a real job. At first, it came from strangers. Trolls on the internet. Old-school skeptics who thought anything outside of a 9-to-5 was a joke. But when it came from family, from the people who should have supported me the most, that was something else entirely. Olivia had always been in my corner. At least, that's what I had believed. She was there through the tough times, cheering me on, reassuring me that I was more than just a guy playing video games for an audience. But her parents? They had never respected it. Never respected me. I had ignored it for years, convincing myself that their words didn't matter as long as Olivia and I were solid. But that morning, everything changed. I woke up to the familiar chime of my phone, barely cracking my eyes open to check the time. 6:12 a.m. Way too early for anything good. Then I saw the message from Marco, my moderator. You need to see this now. Something about those words made my chest tighten. Marco wasn't the kind of guy to exaggerate. If he said I needed to see something, I knew it was bad. Still groggy, I clicked the link. The moment the video loaded, my stomach dropped. It was a recording from Olivia's family gathering. The quality was grainy, likely a hidden phone camera, but the voices? Crystal clear. My father-in-law, Richard, sat at the head of the table, beer in hand, his voice laced with amusement as he mocked my entire career. He plays video games all day like a damn child, and people actually pay him? What kind of idiots waste money on that? A chorus of laughter erupted around the table. Not awkward laughter, not the kind that happens when someone crosses the line. No, this was genuine amusement. They thought it was funny. The camera panned slightly. My mother-in-law, Diane, leaned in with a smirk, sipping her wine. I still can't believe that's a job. Imagine telling people that's what your son-in-law does. Embarrassing. And then Lisa, Olivia's sister, spoke the words that made my vision blur. At least his little internet hobby pays our bills. My breath caught. My chest felt tight, my fingers curling into fists as I watched. Lisa laughed, completely oblivious to the weight of what she had just said. Olivia was in the shot now, sitting there, silent. Not laughing, but not defending me either. Her eyes were downcast, avoiding everyone's gaze, as if she was simply waiting for the conversation to pass. I watched the video again, and again. I wanted to believe there was some kind of context missing. Maybe they were drunk. Maybe it was just bad humor. Maybe Olivia had spoken up afterward, but it wasn't caught on camera. But deep down, I knew the truth. They had never respected me. They only respected the money I brought in. That was when something inside me snapped. I sat in my chair, staring at the dim glow of my computer screen. The words from that video refused to leave my head, playing on repeat like a cruel joke I wasn't in on. At least his little internet hobby pays our bills. I clenched my jaw, feeling a heat rise in my chest, a tightness that wasn't just anger but something deeper, betrayal. I had spent years thinking I was part of a family, thinking that my success was our success, that every dollar I contributed was a symbol of love, of responsibility, of being a good son-in-law. But I had been a fool. For 6 years, I had funded their lives without a second thought. Richard and Diane? Their mortgage was gone because of me. Their debt-free retirement, their vacations, their ability to live comfortably without worrying about bills, that was because of me. And Lisa? She had walked out of college without a single student loan dragging her down. No late-night panic over tuition fees. No crushing weight of monthly repayments. I did that. And yet, in that video, they had laughed at me, ridiculed the very thing that put food on their table, the very career they depended on. I let out a slow breath, steadying myself, but there was no pushing this down. No telling myself it was just a joke. No convincing myself they didn't really mean it. They had meant every word. I reached for my phone, my mind already set. If they wanted to treat me like a walking ATM, fine. I'd take the ATM away. My banking app opened with a quiet chime, the numbers staring back at me. A joint emergency fund. One I had set up for Olivia's family a few years ago, just in case they ever hit hard times. At the time, it had felt like the responsible thing to do. Family takes care of family. That's what I told myself. The balance? $312,000. I exhaled, my fingers hovering over the screen. That money had come from my hard work, my sacrifices. The years I spent grinding when I could have been sleeping, relaxing, enjoying life. The money I had set aside just in case they needed me. But what had they done when I needed respect? When I needed the bare minimum, acknowledgement that my work was real, that I wasn't some embarrassment. They had sat at a dinner table and laughed at me. I clicked transfer. My personal account flashed onto the screen. Without hesitation, I typed in the full amount. Every cent. The app asked me to confirm. I pressed yes. Done. Just like that, the lifeline I had given them was gone. No more emergency fund. No more safety net. No more paying for a family that saw me as nothing more than a paycheck. A tension I hadn't even realized I was carrying unclenched from my shoulders. It felt good. I wasn't done yet. I clicked over to my email, my fingers moving with a calmness that surprised me. I copied the link Marco had sent me, the video that had shattered any last illusions I had about where I stood with Olivia's family. Then, I typed out 4 simple words. There will be no more transfers. I stared at the email for a long moment, reading it over. There was no anger in those words. No emotion at all. Just a simple, unarguable truth. For 6 years, I had taken care of them. That was over. I hovered over the send button for just a second. Then I clicked. Sent. I shut my laptop, my body feeling strangely light. Like I had dropped a weight I didn't even know I'd been carrying. For years, I had let this linger in the background of my life, convincing myself that one day they would see my worth. That one day, Richard would look me in the eyes and tell me he was proud of me. That Diane would introduce me to her friends without an awkward hesitation in her voice. That Lisa would acknowledge that she was only debt-free because of me. That Olivia. I swallowed hard. She had sat there in that video. Silent. Not defending me. Not shutting it down. Just silent. I pushed the thought away, too exhausted to deal with it tonight. For now, I just needed to rest. I crawled into bed beside Olivia, the faint glow of her phone lighting up her face. She didn't look at me. Maybe she had already seen the email. I closed my eyes. For the first time in years, I fell asleep without a single financial obligation weighing me down. I woke up to the sound of my phone vibrating violently on the nightstand. It wasn't the usual morning alarm. It was the kind of buzzing that signaled absolute chaos. The kind that only happened when something had gone terribly wrong. I groggily reached for it, blinking against the bright screen. 46 missed calls. I scrolled through the notifications. Texts, voicemails, missed calls, all from the same people. Richard, Diane, Lisa, Olivia. My stomach tightened. I knew exactly why they were calling. The email. I sat up, rubbing a hand over my face as I scrolled through the messages, skimming their desperate attempts to demand an explanation. Diane, tell me this is a mistake. Call me now. Lisa, WTF is this email? Are you serious? My parents are freaking out. Richard, this is your idea of a joke? Fix this now. I didn't respond. I wasn't going to. I stood up, stretching as I walked toward the bathroom. I turned on the faucet, splashing cold water on my face, forcing myself to wake up fully. Last night had been the first time in years that I had gone to bed with a clear mind. No more worrying about keeping everyone happy. No more stressing over whether Olivia's family saw me as anything more than a bank account. I felt lighter. But that was about to change. As I stepped out of the bathroom, I saw Olivia sitting up in bed, her phone in her hand. She looked at me, eyes wide, as if she had just woken up to a disaster. My mom is freaking out. My dad is pissed. What did you do? I stared at her, waiting to see if she already knew. Maybe they had sent her the email too. Maybe she had watched the video on her own. I saw the video, I said simply. Her expression shifted. She paled. What video? I walked over to my laptop, opening it up and pulling up the link Marco had sent me. I turned the screen toward her. She took the phone hesitantly, pressing play. The sound of Richard's voice filled the room. He plays video games all day like a damn child, and people actually pay him? What kind of idiots waste money on that? I watched her closely, watched the way she tensed as the conversation went on. When Lisa's voice chimed in, At least his little internet hobby pays our bills. Her shoulders stiffened. The video ended. She swallowed hard and placed my laptop down. I didn't know they posted this, she whispered. But you knew they felt this way. She flinched. Silence. She didn't deny it. That was all the answer I needed. She had known. Maybe not about the video, maybe not about them mocking me to a massive audience, but she had known how they truly felt. That they saw me as nothing more than a paycheck. That they had never actually respected me. And she had never told me. My stomach twisted. I had spent years taking care of them. And she had let me. I exhaled sharply, dragging a hand down my face. I sent them an email. I transferred the emergency fund into my personal account. No more money. No more handouts. Her mouth fell open slightly. Wait you. Bang. 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 A loud, furious knock at the door. I didn't need to check to know who it was. I walked over to the peephole, confirming my suspicion. Richard. I sighed. Your father is here. Olivia paled. Just don't fight, okay? I didn't respond. I unlatched the door and opened it. Richard pushed past me immediately, stepping inside without waiting for an invitation. His face was red, his breathing heavy, like he had stormed over here the second he saw my email. He shoved his phone toward my face. The email pulled up. You think you can just cut us off? I closed the door calmly behind him. I saw the video, I said, my voice even. For the first time since he stormed in, his expression flickered, just for a second. First confusion, then realization, then dismissal. That was just a joke. He waved a hand. Lisa was messing around. You're being dramatic. I clenched my jaw, feeling the anger rising. A joke? So the 80,000 people who watched it were in on it too. He scoffed. Oh, come on. Don't be so sensitive. You millennials. Always looking for a reason to be offended. I took a step forward. You mock my career. The same career that paid off your house. His nostrils flared. We're family. That's what family does, support each other. I laughed. A cold, hollow laugh. Support? Support goes both ways, Richard. When have you ever supported me? He opened his mouth. Closed it. For the first time, he looked like he didn't have an answer. Then he snapped. So what? You think you're better than us now? I held his gaze. No. I just know my worth. For a moment, there was silence. Tension so thick it nearly suffocated the room. Then he stormed past me, heading for the door. Don't come crawling back when you realize you're nothing without family. He spat over his shoulder. I didn't respond. I just locked the door behind him. When I turned around, Olivia was standing there, her arms wrapped around herself. She didn't say anything. Neither did I. I walked past her, back to my desk, sitting down in my chair. The fallout had begun, and I had no regrets. The room was silent. The only sound was the steady hum of my computer, but even that felt distant. I sat there, staring at the door Richard had just stormed through, feeling the weight of everything settle. He came here thinking he could intimidate me, thinking he could just waltz in, bark a few orders, and I'd crumble. That I'd apologize, transfer the money back, and everything would go back to how it was before. But this time was different. This time, I wasn't bending. I leaned back in my chair, exhaling slowly, my body still tense from the confrontation. Olivia stood in the middle of the room, arms wrapped around herself, her face unreadable. She had watched everything unfold, heard every word. She hadn't said a single thing to defend me. I turned to look at her. Are you going to say something? She blinked, as if she'd forgotten I was even there. What do you want me to say? I let out a short laugh. I don't know. Maybe something about how your father just barged into our house and tried to guilt-trip me after spending years using me like a human ATM. She looked away, biting her lip. I didn't think this would happen. Didn't think what would happen? That I'd finally stand up for myself? That I'd stop letting your family take advantage of me? Her shoulders tensed. That they'd take it this badly. I shook my head, leaning forward, elbows resting on my knees. Olivia, your dad just tried to make me feel guilty for not paying his bills. Think about that. He showed up here furious, not because I did something wrong, but because I stopped letting them leech off me. She flinched at the word leech, but I didn't take it back. That's exactly what they had been doing. Do you think I'm wrong for cutting them off? I asked, watching her carefully. She didn't answer right away. Instead, she hesitated, shifting on her feet like she was weighing her response. Then finally, she sighed. No, I don't think you're wrong. I didn't expect that answer. She ran a hand through her hair. I knew they depended on you. I knew they relied on your money, but I didn't know they talked about you like that. And yet, you still sat there, I said quietly. She exhaled sharply. What was I supposed to do? Start a fight with my family? Yes, I said without hesitation. That's exactly what you should have done. Her eyes flashed. It's not that simple. It is for me. A beat of silence. Then her phone buzzed. She glanced down at the screen and sighed. It's my mom. Of course it was. She hesitated before answering, putting the call on speaker. Mom. Diane's voice immediately filled the room, frantic and desperate. Olivia, thank God. I've been trying to reach you. Your father just got home, and he's furious. What is going on? Olivia rubbed her forehead. Mom, Diane cut her off. Tell him to fix this. Right now? This isn't fair. We're family. I rolled my eyes. Of course, she was playing the family card now. I leaned in toward the phone. Family. I repeated. Funny how that word only matters when you need something. Diane's voice sharpened. This is between us, not you. Wrong, I said. This has everything to do with me. I'm the one who paid off your mortgage. I'm the one who covered Lisa's loans. I'm the one who just found out that the people I've been supporting for 6 years don't even respect me. Silence. Then Diane's voice softened, switching to manipulation mode. We've always appreciated you, sweetheart. I scoffed. Right? That's why you laughed when Richard mocked my job. Diane didn't answer right away. Then, she sighed dramatically. We didn't mean it like that. How did you mean it then? Another pause. Look, we all say things we don't mean sometimes. It was just casual talk over drinks. You're overreacting. I clenched my jaw. There it was. The classic gaslighting. I'm done, I said firmly. You can yell, you can guilt trip, you can cry all you want. But the money? It's gone. There will be no more transfers. Diane inhaled sharply. You're making a mistake. You're going to regret this. No, I said, staring at Olivia as I spoke. The only mistake I made was not cutting you off sooner. I reached forward and ended the call. Silence filled the room again. Olivia exhaled slowly, rubbing her temples. That was a lot. I crossed my arms. Welcome to my world. She looked at me then, really looked at me, and I could see something shifting behind her eyes. Maybe, for the first time, she was actually seeing how much her family had taken from me. She didn't say anything, just walked over and sat on the couch, staring at her hands. I didn't push her. Not yet. I had bigger things to focus on. Because this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. For the first time in 6 years, my phone was silent. No texts. No calls. No fake apologies. Just silence. And yet, I could feel the weight of what I had done pressing against me. It wasn't regret, because I didn't regret cutting them off. But the shift in power, the sudden absence of their demands, was something I wasn't used to. I sat at my desk, staring at my phone, waiting for another outburst from Richard or Diane. But none came. I should have felt relief. Instead, I felt anticipation, because I knew this wasn't over. And I was right. The first sign of their retaliation came that evening. I was halfway through an editing session when my phone buzzed. A bank notification. Unusual activity detected on joint emergency account. I frowned, opening the app. I had already transferred everything out of the emergency fund. There was nothing left, except for maybe a few $100s I hadn't bothered to move. But now, that last $600 was gone. I clenched my jaw. They stole from me. I went into the account settings, checking the withdrawal details. Diane. Of course it was her. I should have been furious. Should have been ready to drive over there and demand answers. Instead, I just sighed and closed the account permanently. That was the last crumb of financial help they would ever get from me. I sat back in my chair, letting the weight of the moment settle in. This was what freedom felt like. No more obligations. No more fake gratitude. Just me and what I had built. Then, as if the universe had sensed my moment of peace, Olivia walked in. She looked hesitant, her arms crossed, her expression somewhere between exhaustion and unease. I braced myself. Lisa texted me, she said. I didn't respond. I just waited. She sighed. She says my parents are struggling now because of you. I scoffed. Struggling? With a fully paid house and zero debt? Give me a break. She hesitated, shifting on her feet. You know what I mean. They're upset. My dad's angry. My mom won't stop crying. I laughed at that. Not because it was funny, but because it was so predictable. They're upset because they lost control. That's not my problem. Her lips pressed into a thin line. They feel betrayed. I looked at Let's get one thing straight, Olivia. I have given your family hundreds of thousands of dollars, paid off their mortgage, paid for Lisa's education, bought them a damn car. And in return, they laughed at me. They disrespected me. And now that I've cut them off, I'm the bad guy. She looked away. It's not that simple. It is. We stood there, the silence stretching between us. For the first time in our marriage, I wondered if she truly understood me. If she ever had. I sighed, rubbing my temples. If you want to help them, fine. Use your own money. But don't ask me to lift another damn finger for them. She swallowed hard. I don't have that kind of money. I raised an eyebrow. Then maybe you'll finally understand what it's like to work for something and not expect a handout. She stared at me, hurt flashing across her face. But I didn't take it back. I meant every word. She left the room without another response. I sat there, staring at the closed door. For the first time in our relationship, I didn't know if we were on the same side anymore. But if she made me choose between her and my self-respect, I already knew my answer. That night, I stayed up later than usual. I wasn't working. I wasn't even tired. My mind was just too loud. The confrontation with Richard, the way Olivia had reacted, the reality of what had happened over the last 24 hours. It all kept replaying in my head like a broken record. I had cut off a family that never truly respected me. I had drawn a line that couldn't be erased. And Olivia? I didn't know where she stood anymore. She had spent years watching me fund her parents' lives, watching me shoulder responsibilities that weren't mine. But when it came time to defend me, to stand up for me, she had hesitated. That hesitation told me everything I needed to know. I sat in my chair, eyes glued to the dark screen of my phone, waiting for the next explosion. Then, at 11:42 p.m., my phone buzzed. A call from an unknown number. I almost ignored it. But something, instinct, curiosity, maybe even pettiness, made me pick up. Hello. A shaky breath. Then, a familiar voice. Please don't hang up. Diane. I exhaled slowly, rubbing my temple. What do you want? We need your help, she said, voice small. I waited. Richard won't say it, but we're struggling. I almost laughed. You expect me to believe that? You live in a fully paid-off house, drive a car I bought, and have zero debt. What exactly are you struggling with? She hesitated. You wouldn't understand. Try me. A long pause. Then, she sighed. We didn't plan for this. We were used to things being stable. And now, Richard doesn't know how to handle the sudden loss. You mean the loss of my money? Silence. Then, she tried another tactic. Your career has changed you, she said, her voice thick with forced disappointment. You used to care about family. I let out a bitter laugh. Family lifts each other up, Diane. They don't drag each other down. She sighed. So that's it. You're just done with us. With being used? Yes. Her breathing hitched. You don't mean that. I leaned forward, my grip tightening on the phone. You have no idea how much I mean it. Silence stretched between us. Then, she spoke again, her voice barely a whisper. Olivia still loves you, you know. My jaw tightened. I know, I said. But love doesn't mean enabling toxic behavior. And if she expects me to go back to the way things were, she's going to be disappointed. Diane inhaled sharply. You're making a mistake. I closed my eyes briefly, exhaling through my nose. No, Diane. I'm finally making the right choice. And then, without another word, I hung up. I placed my phone down, staring at it, waiting for the next call, the next text, the next attempt at manipulation. But nothing came. For the first time in years, I was free. 2 months passed. 2 months of silence. No texts. No calls. No sudden appearances at my door. After the confrontation with Diane, I expected another explosion. I expected Richard to storm back in, throwing more insults, demanding I fix things. I expected Lisa to message me again, trying to guilt-trip me into restoring their comfortable lifestyle. But instead, I got nothing. And for the first time in years, I finally understood what peace felt like. It was strange at first. I had spent so long living under the weight of their expectations that I didn't even realize how much space it had taken up in my life. There was always something, an expense they couldn't cover, a financial emergency that only I could fix, an obligation I never agreed to but somehow ended up responsible for. Without them constantly pulling at me, my days felt lighter. I worked without distraction. My business grew, my brand thrived, and my content skyrocketed in engagement. It was like a fog had lifted, and I could finally see what my life looked like when it was truly mine. But while Olivia's family had disappeared, Olivia hadn't. At first, she had been distant. Not angry, not hostile, just quiet. She didn't bring up her parents, didn't try to convince me to fix things. But I could tell she was thinking about it. And then, one day, she left. "I'm going to visit my parents for the weekend," she had told me one Friday morning. I had just nodded. Okay. She had studied me for a moment, like she was waiting for me to say something. Maybe to tell her not to go, maybe to ask her to stay. But I didn't, because I wasn't that guy anymore. She packed a small bag and left. And for the next 3 days, I didn't hear from her once. I didn't check in. I didn't text. I didn't ask when she was coming home. I just lived my life. When she finally returned that Sunday night, she was different. She walked into the house quietly, set her bag down, and exhaled like she had been holding her breath the entire weekend. I glanced up from my desk. "How was the trip?" She sat on the couch, rubbing her face. "They're hurt." I shut my laptop and turned to her fully. "They hurt me first." She let out a humorless laugh. I know. That was the first time she had admitted it out loud. I studied her, waiting for more. She leaned back against the couch, staring at the ceiling. "It was weird being there without you." I raised an eyebrow. "Weird how?" She swallowed hard. "They're different when you're not around." I sat back in my chair, tilting my head. "Different how?" She hesitated, like she wasn't sure if she should say it. But then she sighed. "They're bitter." That made me pause. She continued. "It was like all the things they used to complain about when you weren't in the room just got worse. My dad kept talking about how unfair it was that you just cut them off. My mom kept bringing up all the things they deserved. And Lisa, she kept saying things like he thinks he's better than us now." I just shook my head. "They really don't get it, do they?" She let out another breath. "No, they don't." I waited. "And what about you?" She looked at me, confused. "What do you mean?" I leaned forward. "What did you do when they said those things?" She froze. And that hesitation? It told me everything I needed to know. I nodded slowly. "You didn't defend me, did you?" Her lips parted like she wanted to argue, like she wanted to tell me that she had, but she couldn't, because she hadn't. She swallowed. I didn't know what to say. I laughed under my breath. "That makes 2 of us." She rubbed her forehead, frustration creeping into her expression. "It's not that I don't see your side, okay? It's just it's hard. They're my family." I studied her. "And I'm your husband." She winced. "I know." I stood up, stretching my arms, feeling the weight of this conversation settle deep in my bones. "You know, I never asked you to choose between them and me." She nodded quickly. "I know. But if you ever did have to choose?" I asked, voice quiet. "Would you pick them?" Silence. She swallowed. "I don't want to answer that." I nodded. I figured. I turned back to my desk, picking up my phone, scrolling through notifications. She exhaled sharply. "So what now?" I didn't look at her. "That depends on you, Olivia." She stayed quiet for a long time. Then, after what felt like forever, she stood up. "I don't know what I want," she admitted softly. "But I know I don't want to lose you." I glanced at her. "Then maybe it's time to decide where your loyalty really lies." She opened her mouth like she wanted to argue, but then, she didn't. Instead, she nodded. "Okay." Then she turned and walked away, leaving me standing in the middle of the room, wondering if there was even a way to come back from this. I didn't know what would happen next, but I did know one thing. I wasn't going back to being the man who let them take advantage of me. That version of me was gone. A week passed, then another. Olivia didn't bring up her parents again, and I didn't ask. Things between us weren't tense exactly, but they weren't the same either. There was an unspoken shift, something lingering in the space between us, something we both felt but didn't want to address. I focused on my work. My platform continued to grow, my sponsorship deals rolled in, and for the first time in years, I truly enjoyed what I did without feeling like I was grinding to support someone else. And yet, there was a strange quietness in my life now. Not regret, not doubt, just change. Then, on a random Wednesday evening, a package arrived. No return address. No indication of who had sent it. Just a small, plain box. I frowned as I picked it up, turning it over in my hands. "Did you order something?" Olivia asked from the kitchen. I shook my head. "No." Curious, I grabbed a knife and carefully sliced through the tape. Inside was a single thumb drive. No note. No explanation. Just the drive. I exchanged a glance with Olivia, my stomach tightening. Something about this felt off. I hesitated, then plugged it into my laptop. A single video file appeared. I clicked it. The screen flickered to life, and suddenly, I was staring at Richard. He was sitting at his kitchen table. The lighting was dim, and he looked different. Older. Tired. For the first time since I had known him, he looked small. He exhaled slowly, running a hand down his face before looking into the camera. I don't know if you'll ever see this, but I was wrong. I blinked. Of all the things I expected, this wasn't one of them. Richard let out a short laugh, shaking his head. I mocked your career because I never understood it. Because I hated my own job and couldn't stand that you loved yours. My chest tightened. He continued, voice quieter now. You built something. You made a life for yourself without anyone's help. And instead of respecting that, I belittled it. I thought that made me stronger. But now, I see it for what it was. Weakness. My throat felt tight. He sighed, rubbing his temples. You didn't deserve that. You didn't deserve any of it. He looked away for a moment, as if trying to compose himself. Then, he met the camera's gaze again. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't even expect a response. But if you ever hear this, I just wanted you to know. The screen went black. Silence filled the room. I sat there, staring at the dark screen, my mind racing. I had imagined 100 different ways Richard would react to being cut off. Anger, denial, more manipulation. But this was different. Olivia was watching me carefully, waiting for me to say something. But what was there to say? Part of me felt vindicated. For years, I had been waiting for Richard to acknowledge me, to see me as something more than a bank account, more than a man who got lucky with an online career. And now, when it no longer mattered, he finally saw the truth. It was too late, wasn't it? I swallowed hard, closing my laptop. I need a minute. I stood up, walking toward the door, stepping outside into the cool night air. For the first time since this all started, I didn't know how to feel. The night air was cool against my skin, but my mind was anything but calm. I stood on the porch, hands gripping the railing, staring into the darkness as if it held answers. Richard's voice still echoed in my head. I don't expect forgiveness. For years, I had imagined this moment, him admitting he was wrong, him finally acknowledging that I wasn't just some kid wasting time in front of a screen, that I had built something, that I had made a life for myself without his approval, without his validation, without needing anything from him. And now, when I had nothing left to give, he finally saw the truth. I should have felt satisfied, but I didn't. I heard the door creak open behind me, but I didn't turn around. A moment later, Olivia's quiet voice broke the silence. What are you thinking? I let out a slow breath. I don't know. She stepped beside me, arms wrapped around herself. I didn't expect that either. I glanced at her. Did you know? She shook her head. No, he didn't tell me anything about it. But I guess he's been thinking about it for a while. I turned back to the night, jaw tight. Why now? She hesitated. Because you walked away. I exhaled sharply. So what? He only respects me now because I stopped paying his bills. Olivia didn't say anything, but she didn't have to. We both knew the answer. It had taken losing me for him to realize what I had been worth all along. I leaned against the railing, fingers tapping against the wood. I should feel relieved. I should feel vindicated. But I don't. She watched me carefully. Then what do you feel? I shook my head. I don't know. Tired, maybe. Or just done. She was silent for a long moment. Then, softly, she said, You don't have to forgive him. I glanced at her. Don't I? She frowned. No, you don't owe him anything. I studied her, searching for any trace of hesitation. For months, I had felt like we were standing on opposite sides of this situation, her caught between loyalty to me and loyalty to them. But now, for the first time, I realized she had finally let go too. I sighed, rubbing a hand over my face. I don't know if I want to forgive him. She nodded. Then don't. I let out a dry laugh. Just like that. Just like that, she said simply. Forgiveness isn't something you owe him. It's something you give if you want to. And if you don't, that's okay. I didn't respond right away. Because the truth was, I wasn't sure what I wanted. I turned the words over in my head, weighing them, testing how they felt. Could people change? Did they deserve a chance if they did? Or was it too late? I thought back to the years I had spent trying to prove myself to Richard. The exhaustion, the frustration, the endless cycle of giving and never being enough. And now, after everything, he was finally seeing me. Was that worth anything? I exhaled, shaking my head. I don't have an answer right now. Olivia reached out, placing her hand on mine. Then don't rush it. We stood there in silence for a long time, just watching the night sky, the weight of the past hanging between us. For the first time in months, we weren't on opposite sides. But that didn't mean I knew what came next. A year passed, 12 months of silence, of rebuilding, of learning what life felt like without carrying someone else's burdens on my back. At first, it was strange. I had spent so long pouring into others, giving without expecting anything in return, that I didn't know what to do with the extra space in my life. But then, I realized something. That space, that freedom, it wasn't empty, it was mine, and I filled it with my own happiness. I threw myself into my career, not because I had to, but because I loved it. My platform grew, my community expanded, and for the first time in years, I enjoyed my work again. I bought a new house, not for anyone else, just for me. A place that felt like mine, where every dollar spent was a choice I made for myself, not an obligation to someone else. I adopted a dog, a big, goofy thing with too much energy and not enough awareness of his own size. And somehow, in the middle of all the chaos, that dog taught me something I hadn't realized I needed to learn. Joy, not responsibility, not expectation, just pure, uncomplicated joy. And Olivia? We worked through it. It wasn't easy. There were hard conversations, moments where we almost didn't make it. But in the end, she saw her family for what they were. Users, manipulators, people who had mistaken my generosity for a weakness. She still spoke to them, but with boundaries. They didn't ask her for money anymore. They didn't expect her to fix things. And more importantly, she didn't expect me to either. Lisa and I reconnected, carefully. She had apologized, not just in a casual, let's move on kind of way, but in a way that felt real. She admitted that she had been jealous, that watching me succeed while she floundered had made it easier to mock me than to face her own insecurities. I didn't rush to forgive her, but I listened. And when I was ready, I let go of the anger. Because forgiveness wasn't for them, it was for me. And Richard? He never asked for money again. But he did send one more message, months later. A short text. No apologies. No expectations. Just this. I watched your latest stream. You're really good at what you do. I stared at it for a long time. Then, finally, I responded. Thanks, Richard. Maybe people could change. Maybe they couldn't. Either way, I knew one thing. I would never shrink myself again.